Hello and welcome. In this lesson, I'll be showing you how to connect your Node.js application to a MongoDB database and also how to perform database operations from your Node.js application. Um, Operations like creating documents and fetching documents and also updating and deleting documents. So I'm going to start by creating some sample data which we can use from my Mongo shell. So I'm going to use the Mongo command and I'm going to use a database called Bookshop. And in this database, I'm going to use a collection called Books. And in that collection called Books, I'm going to add three books. With each of those books are going to have um, an author field and title field. So I'm just going to say db.books dot insert many, and I'm going to use the array um, author John and title will be make money now, and the next one will be author Jane, title how to make more money, and the third one will be by Jack, and the title will be who has made more money. I'm going to Okay, so I have these three documents created. So now if I run db.books.find, you can see the three books we just created here. So I'm going to head over to this folder I have here called MongoDB setup. I also have it opened right here in my VS Code. So we're going to start by setting up our Node.js application using Express. And so that means we're going to install Express and configure our app to listen to a particular port. Then we continue from there. So let's run through that. I'm going to start by running npm init, and I'm going to add this y option, -y. That means I don't want it to ask me about all of the setup questions of name and version. It will just create um, the project for me without asking me all of those questions. So I'm just going to do that. And that sets it up. All right. So I'm going to install Express and run that. And once that is done, I'm going to head back to VS Code and I'm going to create a file called index.js. And in index.js, I'm going to require the express module equals require express. And then I'm going to initialize my app equals express. And I'm just going to ask the app to listen to port 4000 and add a callback console.log server up and running. I'm going to save this and head back to my terminal. and just start up my server, and I have server up and running. So great. Now to use MongoDB in a Node.js application, we're going to install the MongoDB package and use the methods available to us from the MongoDB package. To connect, let's start by installing MongoDB, npm install MongoDB, and we'll have that done in, okay, that's done. All right, so I was saying to connect your application to MongoDB, we're going to need two things. First one is the connection string, and the second one is the Mongo client, which we're going to get from the MongoDB module, which we have just installed. So I'm going to start by saying const Mongo client equals require MongoDB dot Mongo client. All right, so this is the Mongo client we'll be using. So for the connection strings for MongoDB are usually formatted like this: MongoDB, the colon, two forward slashes, and then local hosts on ports 27017. MongoDB runs on port 27017 exclusively. If you check my terminal where I have Mongo running, you would see here it says listening on TMP MongoDB 27017. So exclusively MongoDB runs on the port 27017. So I'm going to head back here. So this is the string we'll be using as our connection string. This is the general format for the MongoDB connection strings, local connection strings actually. We'll get to cloud instances of MongoDB and how to connect to them in a little bit. But for now, we're using our local installation of MongoDB. And so I'm just going to declare a variable here: const connection string equals MongoDB localhost port 27017. Now, this is virtually what I need to connect to my database. All right, so to connect to my database, I'm going to use a new Mongo client instance. So I'm going to do that by saying const Mongo client, or rather, to avoid confusion, let me just say clients equals new Mongo clients, and you can see it's going to take a parameter URI, which refers to the connection string. So I'm just going to type in connection string, and this takes some options which will be inserted into this object. And the options are, by default actually, use new URL parser, you set that to true, and then use but unified topology, you set that to true also, and that is all you need. So this will create a new Mongo client which we're going to be connected to. All right, so to use this, for example, to fetch from our bookshop data, we're going to do something like this: clients dot connect, and can add the name of the database, bookshop, and then we'll add a callback function, um, error, and clients, or let's just say connected clients. And if there's an error, let's just throw an error. Else, um, connected clients dot. So this is an error. I should have this inside of this DB here as the name of the database. All right. So connected clients dot db, and then the name of the database. So let me just call that a variable called db, and you would see this is a database instance. So I can now run commands like db dot collection books dot find um, by the way, when I put in an empty curly braces, or rather two empty curly, a pair of curly braces with no key values inside of it, it means find all. So find dots. You can also use a method called toArray, which converts it to an array, and then I can add a callback function, error results. For now, let's just print it in the console.log results. So I'm going to save this and start up my server again, and let's see what is printed here. Node index.js, and now you can see the documents we created earlier printed out as an array here. So this is just the basics of what we can do with the MongoDB module. So now let us just use it in two different routes in our Express application. One route will be to fetch data, and the other route will be to add data to the database. So let's start with fetching data. So to do that, let's create a route called app.get slash books. And when we send a get request to slash books, let's add a callback function. And in that callback function, we're just going to do all what we have here. So I'm just going to cut this and paste it here. And instead of throwing error here, let's send a response back to the clients. Return res.json, and the message would be, it would be the error. And let's add the status here, 500 dot status 500. And otherwise, instead of console.log here, let's send it the answer back to the clients. So let's just say return res the status 200 dot json books will be the results. And so I'm going to save this. Okay, let's also handle the error here. If there's an error, just return res.status 500.json message is error. So I'm going to save this and restart the server. And you can see it does not run this again until we make a get request to that route. So let's go to Postman. I believe Postman is already becoming more familiar. All right, so I'm going to enter the address, local hosts, I think, all right, local hosts 5000 and slash books, and we send the requests. Well, we on port 5000 or 4000? We are on port 4000. Okay, so this should be 4000. And let's see what the response will be. And we get our 200 response, and we have our books. All right. Okay, so let's do the second route, which will be to add a new book to the database. So to do that, we'll just replicate what we have here, just very much the same, and using the same Mongo shell commands that we've been using. So I'm just going to make a post request to books app.posts slash books, and then the callback function, and we want to do this again, clients.connect, and then the callback error connected clients, and if there's an error, we want to send it back to the clients, 500.json message is the error. Else, what we want to do is again const db equals connected clients dot db bookshop. So while it seems we're repeating some code again and again, we would see a better way of interacting with our database shortly. Also, I want to show you another way you can write your connection string. Instead of having to repeat the bookshop here all the time, I can take this off completely, and on this string here, I'm just going to add a forward slash and the name of the database we're referring to, and that works just the same way. So I'm going to complete this by saying const db equals connected clients.db, and now I can do db dot collection books dot insert many, or rather insert one, since we're just sending one for now. And insert one is going to be filled from the request body. So before we proceed with that, let's configure our app to um, fetch data from the request body. So we're going to do that by saying app.use express.json, and that should be it. Um, so what we want is when the user sends a JSON object, and that object contains something like this, like what we have here. The author, in fact, I'm just going to copy out this. So when the client sends this as data, we just want to insert that to the database. So let's go back to Postman. I'm going to make a post request, and up here I'm going to select body and raw. And while you're on raw here, you want to be sure you are sending JSON. And let me paste this right here. So I need to put this in quotes, and this also in quotes. So that should take off the error. So what I want to do is that when the user sends this, I want the author and title to be retrieved from the request body. So let's give this person a name. Let's call this person Fiona, and the title, How Money Works. How. Okay. I'm going to head back to VS Code, and I'm just going to say insert one. Author is request.body.author, and then the title is request.body.title. And once this is done, I want to add a callback function that takes two arguments as always, the error and the results. And then if there's an error, we want it to return it to the client as a response. Restore status 500.json, and the message would be the error. Else, we just want to let the user know that a new book has been added. So let's just erase the status 200.json. Message is new book added to bookshop. I'm going to save this and run through it again. So what we're doing is that we're inserting a new document to the books collection, and we're fetching the author for the new book from the request body here, author, and the title also from the request body. So let's run this. I've saved this, so I'm going to restart my server. and my server is up. And then I'm going to send this post request. And then it says new book added to bookshop. So let's confirm that that is true. Let's send a get request and let's see if we have a new book indeed. And I'm going to scroll down, and great, my book has been added here. So I hope this explains to you how the MongoDB package works. Although in subsequent lessons we'll be using something called an ORM. More explanation on that will come in the next lesson. So you can try this out on your own and have some fun with it. And I'll see you in the next lesson. Goodbye.